Yes, hello guys. Welcome to another video. After interviewing a lot of sporting directors, CEOs, today we're going to be talking about what I learned from interviewing these people. Sorry, today I'm a little bit late. Just had to do one of few things normally. But anyways, the thing is, thank God I'm here. Let's crack on now. Yeah. Normally I have to be here at 21:30, but I had to rush to do one of few things then and come to be present for you people. So again, another day, as I promised that I'll be here, and then we go on towards how we did in the past few days, and then also try to give finish with our past questions, the questions for the exam. So that's the strategy now, so that at least you can gain some knowledge and also gain the exam knowledge on everything. So yeah, but after interviewing sporting directors, head of recruitment, CEOs of football clubs, most what I found out is that most football agents completely misunderstand how clubs actually operate. Yeah, we as agents see clubs differently to how they operate, because there is two sides. One, if you are in the inner circle of the football club, you're going to see it totally different from if unless you start interview or communicating with them. So what I mean by, let's take for example, so if you're an agent and you are not aware of how clubs function, you might only have your own idea. What do I mean by that? I mean by, as long as I have a good player, we all agents are all guilty of this. That as long as I have a good player, no, there's nothing much. The club, so a club will take him somewhere because he's that good. So, but that's not actually the real case. And in this video, I'll explain to you key things I learned directly from interviewing CEOs, sporting directors, head of recruitment, and to how they think, how football, to how they see how their clubs are run. From there, I started to see how things are different from how I was looking at it, because also when from an outside point of view, I was looking at it different. I was saying, well, anyways, if football clubs are run, um, as long as I have a good player, I have a chance. That's what I thought always, but it's not always like that. That's totally different. Yeah. Watching again from Canada, thank you so much for your valuable information shared. Yeah, I appreciate, and thanks for the compliment. Yeah. Okay. That's from Canada. Yeah. Okay, let's crack on and see what we have to offer today, so that we get value of why we're here, which is the most important thing. So, as I said, I'm going to share you guys my own, how can I put it? I'm going to share my own lesson, what I learned from interviewing CEOs, sporting directors. I have been to a lot of European countries interviewing these people. Yeah. Uh, to get to see how the structure of a football club is run. From there, when I was interviewing them, I went there for a different purpose actually. But during those interviews, I also discovered that okay, football clubs are run totally different from what we see them from an outside point of view as an agent. So let's look at the first point. We say, so first point is clubs evaluate problems, not just players. What do I mean by that? One thing that became very clear to me when speaking to like sporting directors of clubs, what they actually look for is they look for in a signing, or as a club, is analyzing the squad's problem. They don't just go up and say, "Oh, we want to sign this player." No. So the clubs who run actually, because these days clubs are run driven based on data. So this is how, from my experience from talking to sporting director, this is how it goes. They try to minimize, they solve the most difficult problem. They start to they minimize problems. So they don't look for like this is solution. So what I mean by, let's take for example, if they're having problems having a left back, or they are not having or it's a right footer who is playing at the left back, and they want to solve that, and then they are also having no central defender, They will prefer to get the one which is, let me say, they're having the let's not say no central defender. Let's say they have central backs, but most of the ones who are playing there are young kids. They will prefer to first solve that problem of central back and keep on playing that right footed at left back. Then before, when they are done with the central back, they move to right back. So they try to solve the problem with the most, let me say, the most bigger one. They try to minimize risk as possible. That's what I started learning. That clubs always trying to make it as balanced as possible. So what the sporting directors, most of them, because I've interviewed a lot of them, uh, when they speak with the recruitment department, here is how they this here is how the question is being tabled to them. Which position needs reinforcement? So if they have gotten their squad right, and then the squad is, let's take for example, because the squad that every squad needs two position. That's how a football club wants to run. That's the best, which means you're already in a good position. But when you don't have that, you try to always you're plugging the gaps, plugging the gaps. But the thing here is, when you have your first 11, then you start looking at the other players to fill the other positions. So now, if they go to, let's say, if you've had your squad ready, then they try to say, okay, now we need to add layers into our squad. The first thing they're asking, which position needs reinforcement, which means if you have two right wingers, you don't need to go and reinforce that position. And so you'll be looking now for a left. I mean, let's take for example for a left back, which maybe has just, if they have just one left back. So unless that left back is playing well, and then there's one youth player coming showing prospect. So everything is about analyzing one prospect that he can get into the first team. Then what most squad do is they'll leave that gap for that youth player who can come through and continue. And then they'll move maybe to a midfield position where they can say, okay, now we have this midfielder playing regularly. Let's try to give him a help by bringing someone through or looking someone in the market. So it's always about reinforcement. Then when the recruitment department go through that, then the next thing they look at, which players' contracts are expiring, so that we can always be keeping. So you see, it's a constant chain. They go now, they look at who has 1 year, who has 2 years. They start talking with him, and inside this, there's a lot of things like maybe the player may want to move on because he's having better salary somewhere, or the player is not having playing time. So everything comes into play there. So these are the things that the sporting directors they see. Then now the next one is they are looking for what tactical roles are missing in the team. This one is, of course, this is coaching department, also with sporting directors. They are looking like who can be, if they are trying to bring someone. Let's take, for example, if they have someone playing well, and then they need to go an extra mile. This, when they have balanced their squad, they need to go an extra. They start looking out for who is going to improve, and with what and who can we bring that is going to help enhance the performance of others. And that person they're looking also comes under the age profile. I hope the age profile fits the squad. They try to look for those balance. So, but now when you see with agents, because this is from the inside, when I started interviewing sports directors, this is what I was getting. But with us agents, we randomly just send highlight videos without knowing all these details, and then understanding sporting directors. Knowing these details to understand sporting directors. So we just look at it from our own part of view and say, as long as our player is good, he can be bought by this club. Whereas there's more going to it. Like, for example, we prefer to bet your player might be good, but they prefer not to buy that player because they prefer to take that money and invest it on something, or something might turn up that they don't need you now. The player might be good to actually break into the first 11, but they prefer looking at elsewhere, different things. Okay, then the next thing we're looking at also is like recruitment department combine and scouting data. In today's football, your player may be good, but data rejects that player. So in modern football, there's a lot of data going through. What I mean by that is you can go and watch you can have a scout. The scout go and scout a player. Then the next thing they say, because when they scout, you see with your eye, they call it the eye test. But now they have to be data to back that eye test. That's why even I, when I'm trying to look at clubs, I try to, let's take for example, what I always do is I have a software also that I try to let's look at football clubs. Let's give an example. If I want to sell a player to, let me say if I have a player and I want to, what I usually do if I want to propose a player to a club, this is listen to this keenly. So what I do is I go to that club squad. I try to analyze that squad. Let's take, for example, my player is a central defensive midfielder. I go and look all those central defensive midfielder in their squad. Then now I take their names and their stats and come and put it on my the software I'm using because that is data. Then I try to see their key passes, their key offensive. You're going to see all the metrics like key offensive passes, whatsoever stats they have. Then now you put your own player also there to see how it goes. So if I put my own player there and I see my player, if I put my own player there and see my player has less stats than their own, I'm not going to sell the player to that club. I'm not going to not say I'm not going to move on by starting to make my moves to that club. So because you know you have less chances. So this is a very big thing that people data is very big thing in football. So you might have a player who on the eye is good, but when you propose him to a club, they reject him. It's because you haven't looked into the stats. So the thing that most people don't have an idea about this is when you're actually trying to sell your player, try to have a software that you can manage these players with. Let's take, for example, as I said, central defensive midfielder, you have to put him. Of course, the leagues are different, but you also have to categorize. Like, let's take for example, if a defensive midfielder is leaving from the Premier League to the Spanish league, you know what is his profile? Is he a more ball position midfielder? He might likely succeed because the Spanish league right now is not really dominant like the Premier League, but still you need to back it up with your stats. So you need to look at his profile. You need to look at what are his key offensive passes, which is very important for a midfielder these days that he plays ahead forward. And you look at his sideways passes. Does what is his general play? So you are trying to look at all these things. Is he more of a position player and whatsoever? But even if you're a position player, how many times does he play key passes ahead? That is passes that splits the opposition defense open. So all these stats, when you look at these stats, if your stats are better than the people playing in that team, you can start now to have a little bit of joy by looking at other things. So this is what really goes into it. That's why you see some agents can be in the industry for 10 years and just linger around with maybe having one or two players, whereas others can be at the agency for just few years and start getting their players on board because they already understand, because the system actually doesn't change. You just need to try to understand the system, because when you understand the system, then you start to move ahead easily. So that's the idea. Okay. So as I said, player performance statistics goes into it. Tactical role, can the player fit? And then also there's another thing that I also, when I was interviewing head of recruitment, this they play a lot of this is very important. Injury history. We don't also look at that. So how do clubs find this? So if you're playing in Europe, especially, one thing they look at is your injury record. They go and see how many times you're out. So they look at a lot of this. Your physical, the analysis department look at this. Your physical, not I mean their physical department, club's physical performance department look at this, and then they also see how consistent you are always available. That is very huge. Yeah. Which all these things, your highlight videos you send don't really give anything. Don't really give information about those things. That's why they are more interested in looking at all those stats. And also, one thing I also noticed, professional communication matters more than people think. So one thing I discovered about sporting directors, CEOs, they repeatedly mention that many agents lose credibility simply because of way they communicate. So as I said, clubs receive a lot of messages. Hello, for example, as I say, hello, I have a top striker available. This immediately signals lack of professionalism. If you say you have a top striker available, He wouldn't be there if he's a top striker. You understand? So you have to find a way to be able to communicate. Yeah. I like you put clear player profile, contract status, how he fits into the system, how you have looked out of the stats of their players and the, the stats of this player, how he can fit into the league, why you explain why the player is a fit. So all these things matters a lot. And then we also know that next thing we also know that football is built on long-term relationship. Another major insight is that football decision makers prefer working with people they trust. So it's like I and you, I will prefer working with someone that I trust. Because if you send me a bad or a player who is not good, I can call you back and say, what is this player you've sent to me? I'm not happy with that. Then we might talk something off that. But when you don't trust someone, you don't want to work with that person, especially because there's huge things happening. There are huge how do they call it? There's huge money, financial involvement as a player that if you make a mistake, it's likely to haunt you and it's likely to haunt the financial department of the club. And then it's also likely to remove you from that position because what clubs are doing, as I said, they are trying their best possible means to minimize risk. Okay, so those are the things that really count when they're looking for that I learned when I was interviewing sporting directors, CEOs, how a football club is run and how things go into daily activities of a sport club. Those are the things that are very important. And also another last point here is many executives emphasize on uh, like talking with agents who know what they are doing. So let's take for example, if a CEO have an idea that you as an agent know what you're doing, they prefer to they prefer to have you on board. They don't need to go to another person try to speak. They prefer to have you because they feel like you're not going to mess up when it comes to the rules and regulation because a lot of agents they don't know have an idea or have a clue about the rules and regulation, which is quite daunting or which is quite difficult to go with that because when you people are in the on the negotiation table, you are brought out. Let's for example, you are going to have files and documents. So if an agent doesn't have an idea of what is happening or doesn't know how to do those stuff, it's quite hard for you are only going to put yourself in a difficult situation because after that negotiation, you might that CEO or the sporting director you're talking with might not be in communication with you another time again. So these are little things that you have to find you have to find and learn to be able to keep going as an agent. As I always said, the key is not to always start to go that you want to sign top players a lot. The main aim here is to be able to understand what football clubs need and the structure. Because the idea here is if you actually know what clubs need, you will be successful within a short period of time. For example, I said when I was interview, what one interview that really opened my eyes. Of course, I learned my first, even with all the people I've learned a lot interviewing sporting directors, CEOs. My first interview was with the head of recruitment for Cooks. He's Vicky Sabonen, that's his name. But now he's now working with a professional at a different club called Inter Truku. But my first interview with him, when I was going into that interview, I didn't have a clue that because I was just going in like how most agents go in, like we call it novice, like you just go in and say, okay, of course, at the back of my mind, I was going in there saying, "Oh, we're just going to speak, have this interview. If he wants a player, then maybe I'm just going to say, yes, I have a striker." And then I go back now after and try to speak. I try to work on a good striker for him. No, it doesn't work like that. You're just going to waste your time. But when I went into that interview, I started learning that for a club to bring a player, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just one person who say, "I'm bringing this player." You put look at the performance, the consistency, the injury record, it passes through. The eye test comes, and then after the eye test, you have the data, the data to back the stat to back it up. And then Then now after they start to back it up, now you go comparing him also with the player you people have. So there's a lot of moving steps. That's why most time you hear agents saying that transfer doesn't just start that month. It starts way backward. That people start planning for that. So it's always a process for for a transfer to happen. And also for a transfer to happen, you might hear, no, we don't need this player now. No, we don't need this player now. No, this is how the business is. So before, at the beginning, when you start doing transfer, it's always going to be something that you, when you hear rejection, you say, oh my God. But no, you have to understand that it takes only 1 year for your player to say, okay, now let's do the deal. For example, when you let's take for example, you send a central back to a club, the club is going to say, no, I don't need this player. Okay. But after some time, as long as you keep knowing how to, that's why I say I always emphasize learn how to network. As long as you keep the relationship going, don't bother them about the player. People just talk, you just keep going, building that trust with them. Uh, Within the game, there might be injury record, there might be short of central back, they might revisit that your that you that this thing, that your transfer. So this is a huge part of the industry that once you are speaking with someone, it, don't always speak to sporting directors because there's transfer happening. You can be asking you can be looking how the squad depth is shaping. I mean, the squad entirely is shaping how they do deals. You are trying to understand what they are trying to do as a club to be able to function. That is very important. Not don't always speak about yourself. Speak about what they are trying to look at what they are trying to do as a club. What is their aim? When you understand the aim, they start understanding what they are trying to put behind the scenes. So that because most of the time, even the top agent, the George Mendes, the late Mini Raula, Jonathan Ban, all those top agents. One thing they in a transfer, one thing they don't tell you is they don't tell you they don't tell you that they get no one comes to the media and say, well, I just spoke to Real Madrid and Real Madrid rejected me. Well, I'll wait when they accept me. No one say this kind of stuff in the media. You just see like how Fabrizio Romano posts on the social that here we go, it's the transfer happening. But behind that, here we go for the people negotiating the stuffs. Let me say the agent and the club. What happens there is constant going up and down. Agent trying to work on the transfer, and then the club rejects. No, we don't need this other player. We're looking at this player. We don't need your player. Then there's always chop and change in things happening, and then you can see at one point in time, the player they are maybe going for, they discover that they will have competition for that player a lot. They will not be able to meet the financial demands. They run and come back to your player. So you always have to put yourself in line of all in everything so that waiting to move. I remember speaking to this agent. I think he's on LinkedIn, top agent John Vala, that he was talking that he wanted to make a. We're just having a conversation, but during part of his post that he wrote, he was saying he was arranging this transfer for a World Cup winner. I mean, not for a World Cup, someone who played for Germany in those days, 2002. And he said he was trying to bring the player to Middlesbrough in England. Despite being a German international playing all games in the World Cup, it wouldn't just happen. This was his story. He said, being an he had proposed that player to all English teams. They were not having him, but he was surprised that this guy is a World Cup. This is German international. He played all the games in the World Cup 2002. So how come they are not having him? So so for him, he was surprised because he thought he was just going to propose that player, and a lot of clubs are fighting. He was not even looking at. He was looking at like the top 6 clubs, for example, those kind of things, because the player also had a good World Cup. But to his surprise, no person, there were no clubs coming for him. So he started negotiating with Middlesbrough, and Middlesbrough turned him down. They came again into negotiation. They turned him down. He even flew to England for an agreement that everything has been agreed on phone, and he flew for medical, only to arrive. They said the deal is off. So you see how transfer can happen. That's the normal thing. Then he took a flight going back to Germany. only to be at the airport about to land in Germany. I mean, landed in Germany, just about to do his stuffs. They called him back on phone that the deal is on. Can he come back? Let it sign the deal and it's final. Let it be finalized because the other people, the other transfer probably they were expecting didn't go through, so they had to turn back to his player. So he landed there, booked a new flight just at the airport, booked a new flight, waited for a flight, and went back to England, and the deal was sealed. So even the top agents, this happened, but you don't see that because most agents feel like, or the beginners agents always feel like this thing is just only happens with young age with up and coming agents. No, when you're an agent, you have to learn to understand that no is part of the business, the agency business. You're going to get no, 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 no. But what if you have to do is you have to put yourself in line. The main thing here is that you understand the ecosystem of football business, because you might have two players and other clubs going on for that player. You have to know that just 1 year ticks or cancels all the no's, because the club might say no, we don't need that player now because of we don't have budget. But someone gets injury and money comes out from somewhere, then they need your player. So that's why it's also important to know how to communicate in these situations. Okay, so I hope you got good value for this one, because this is going to be massive when you're trying to build your agency in future when you have your license. These are the things that you're going to look at. So now let's look at a lot of the questions, past questions, and let's look at how we can handle which is the main thing you're here. So let's look at some questions, then we can answer them. So if you have been studying, so again, anyone coming across this video, just let me know, what have you been studying? Have you been studying? What have you actually been preparing for? Have you been studying like the RSTP, the status, FIFA status, FIFA clearinghouse? What is your study? What have you been actually doing? Away from that, my course will soon be open soon. I think in few days it will be open, and I'll send information to everyone who have that the registration is open for them to register. But anyways, I just wanted to have an idea. What have people been reading? Have you been studying? Is it the RSTP, whatsoever? What is your reading method? If you have a chance that you come across this video, if you're not watching now, you watch later, leave a comment and I will know. Okay, and the first question, let's look at the first question. Yeah. Okay. According to FIFA Football Agent Regulation regarding ongoing licensing requirement, a football agent must continuously comply with certain obligations in order to maintain their license. Which of the following situations will lead to automatic provisional suspension of a football agent's license? A. The football agent fails to attend a meeting with a club representative. B. The football agent fails to meet eligibility requirements, fails to pay annual fee license, fails to complete CPD requirement, or fails to comply with reporting regulations. B is okay. So let's go to C and say the football agent does not negotiate a transfer during a calendar year. D, the football agent refuses to represent a player during a transfer window. Okay, so this is clear. The answer is what in this one was quite easy, because the question was according to the FIFA Football Agent Regulation regarding ongoing license requirement, a football agent must continuously comply with certain obligations in order to maintain their license. And we're asking which of the following answers will lead to an automatic provisional suspension if a football agent uh, would lead into provisional suspension if a football agent license. So just to explain the question, which of the following situations will lead to an automatic provisional suspension of your license if you don't comply with that? So the answer is B, which is the football agent. If the football agent fails to meet eligibility requirements, fails to pay the annual fee, and also fails to do the CPD There's continual development program. So if you fail to meet all those criteria, then you'll be actually your license will actually be suspended. Okay. So just a question: does your experience as a former professional football player aid anyway in process so far as an agent? No, no. My when you're as an agent, there's nothing happen that there's nothing that you have to do with, let me say, you playing football. It's just a total different world. The experience, the aid. What aid can I say? Let me say the only thing is that if it has to help you is that because you have been around, you see a lot of what happens, or if you speak with player. But again, players don't speak. To be honest, players don't speak with players about their contract. Some do, but it's not a common thing in the dressing room. Say, let's say for example, we cannot be in the changing room and then you're asking your friend how much are they paying you, how much, all those things don't happen. Mostly, actually, especially what I notice in Europe is when people are playing football, you don't even know, people don't discuss those things. They just come, you wear, you train, you just want to make the first 11. That's the thing. You just come, wear your boot, train, shower, disappear on the weekend. You people, with people, have a place that people gather for a team boss to travel and go and play. You play, come back, the boss carries you people back, disappear. You people go to your various home. That's just how it happens. People don't actually talk about those things. But yes, the slight thing that it can help is because you have been around football, you will know that contract. Because if you have been with contracts, let's take for example, when I used to play for a team called Haka, if I had to go and do my contract, I'll be going. I'll be also with the president. Let me say if we're to do what we were to do. So there it can help because you're going to see how people are looking after money and whatsoever. That's the only thing you can feel, you can think of. But apart from that, no. Apart from that, not too much. It doesn't really help you much because the industry is quite different. It's quite different. The regulation, you need to, as a player, you don't know all those things. Okay. Okay. Next question is question 2. According to the FIFA Football Agent Regulation, if a football agent fails to meet eligibility requirement, what procedure steps must the FIFA General Secretariat takes before further disciplinary action can be decided? So again, I repeat the question. According to the FIFA Football Agent Regulations, if a football agent fails to meet eligibility requirement, what procedural step must the FIFA General Secretariat take before further disciplinary action can be decided? A. Immediate revoke the football agent license permanently. That's not possible. B. Notify the football agent of the potential non-compliance and automatic provisional suspension before referring the matter to FIFA disciplinary committee. Yes, that can be possible. C. Immediate impose a fine on the football agent. No. D. Transfer the case directly to the National Association. The answer is B. So that's so I hope people understood the question. So again, as I said, the question with most of this question, you have to learn how to interpret. You have to learn how to interpret the questions. Then it's quite easy for you. But when you don't know how to interpret the question, then you start getting challenges a lot. Okay, so but let's move to the third question so that at least we round up quickly. Where a football agent license has been automatically provisionally suspended due to failure to pay the annual fee license, comply with CPD annual fee license, complying with CPD requirement or meet reporting obligation. What happens if the football agent does not rectify the non-compliance within 60 days? That's a good question. So if I'm interpreting this question is Let's take, for example, you have not paid your annual fee license, which is normal for any agent to pay that license regularly. So here they are asking, the question is, if your license has been suspended, then you still don't comply. What would be the next steps to take? A, the suspension automatically expire. B, the license is reinstated automatically. C, the license shall be withdrawn. Yes, C is the answer. D, FIFA must conduct a new examination for the agent. No, D, the license shall be withdrawn. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to leave you people here so that I'm going to leave it here. So tomorrow, with this 35, yeah, tomorrow is another day. We can speak more. I have to go a little bit earlier today, 35 minutes. Okay. Any questions? I will be watching from Lyon. Yeah. Any questions? I'm going to answer if people have questions. But apart from that, if you have anything, I can still wait more to ask. I mean, I can wait more to answer. Is there is there politics? Is there politics in this process, and how does one play the politics? What do you mean by that? Can you explain? Let me hear. What do you mean by, is there politics in this process? What process? Do you mean like FIFA agent application or whatsoever? Just let me know. Can If you put the question completely, then I can try to answer. Just a moment, guys. I'll be with you guys back. But he said, if you can drop your question, I'll be with you guys back. Just a moment. Having a good standing with the sporting directors. But yeah, but that's not politics. Yes, having a good standing with the sporting director, that's because you know how to maybe a network with the sporting director, as I've been explaining. It's not about like politics. So let's say you can communicate. The best thing I would say is, someone can have a good contact with the sporting directors, but if you don't maintain it, it goes actually out of the window. Let me keep my camera a little bit upper. Yeah, it goes up. What I mean by that is, most people they start building a good relationship with the sporting director, but after some time, they only communicate when there's transfer, which is not good. If you have a chance to have a relationship with a sporting director, from time to time, of course, if you have a means to travel, which is the most important thing as an agent, if you have a means to travel to always go and watch their training session, see what they are doing there, that's quite important. Then that helps, because the thing is, I've seen this a lot. You can build relationship with a sporting director, but if you don't maintain that relationship, it fades away. And the sporting directors also, the other people will be trying to speak to them, so someone can come in and take your place also. And this, so you always need to, you just need, sporting directors are human beings, of course, so you just need to keep it friendly, as is your normal, as you can come in once a while, watch what they are doing in training session. The best way to always build a relationship with sporting director is when you go watch their training sessions. Actually, you're learning more from there, because when you just watch, at least the sporting director have it in mind that actually you know what the team is doing. You don't. So, in a way, when you propose a player to him, he will always want to watch to look at the player you're proposing because he sees that you have been at the training ground, you know what they require. So it's quite easy for him to maintain that relationship with you. And also, any relationship built physically is quite good because most of the, for example, I travel to Norway from Finland. I could prefer to sit there and do a video call on Zoom. That's the thing. I could prefer to do meeting with it or speak with the CEO of, let's say, for example, Valerianga Football Club, one of the top football clubs in Norway that I went to interview the CEO. I could prefer just we do a Zoom call because now you can meet people online. But no, for me, I actually knew that me meeting that person physically, him looking me face to face, and we are having a conversation, he trust there's a trust there built that you cannot have that online. Of course now, but people are in different places, people are in different countries, not everyone have access to moving to different places. But what I'm saying, that if you have the opportunity also, you have to try to do that because that is very important because that lasts more. So the people I meet, let's take for example, if I meet 10 sporting directors and let's say 10 let's say 5 online and 5 face to face, most likely the ones you maintain relationship with longer will be the one that you meet face to face because you people have been maybe over a coffee, you people have drank, sat down, spoken to each other, and then see that okay, do you people have the vibes to work together, which is the thing, the most important thing, that you work together. Most of the time, if you don't have that vibes, people go back, you don't text each other. It's almost like this thing. There was this event that we used to attend early. For example, one was in Budapest, Hungary. Those kind of thing that you pay your transport to go to Hungary to go for this kind of, they call it transfer room, this kind of stuffs like that you go there are a lot of sporting directors, CEOs, and all those people coming to talk about transfers happening. Then the people making those events always say you're going to meet all the sporting directors in the world, all the CEOs. What I found in those places that they don't actually work. My experience with those places when I visited is that it doesn't work too much because let's take for example the CEO, the sporting director of Real Madrid can be there, the sporting director of whatsoever club they might be. But there, everyone is just so focused on trying to maybe do one or two things that they don't actually give you the time. For example, you might want to say, oh, okay, you're going to that place because you want to meet the sporting director of, let's say, of an Arsenal or whosoever club you're trying to target. When you're there, you're not going to have that room to meet him. He's not really going to give you the listening ears because he's there. Maybe he has to say something to the public. He has his program that he's following. Unlike when you actually plan yourself and get an invitation or go and meet them in their own club facility because there they can have time for you there. Okay, so that's what I found out about this most events that they always make. You go there, you don't actually network with those people. The people are there, you see them actually, but you don't network with them because most of the time, those people in those events, most of the time, of them are speakers, or some of them are just busy also trying to learn something there, or that they won't be having time for someone that maybe just trying to come and try to lean on their legs and say, okay, let's build a network so that we can in future start to do things together. So yeah, those kind of things I think they don't work. The best way for you if you want to contact a CEO or sporting director will be just like perfect way, find way to go to find way to go to where they are working, then it will be more helpful. What's your projection of this industry? It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get bigger because the thing is, there's a lot of money now involved in football. That's the fact. There's a lot of money now involved in football, and now people are starting to see that. People are starting to see how influential the industry is coming. Right? So there's a lot of money that. So let's say I don't want to put a year mark on it, but I feel there's a lot to come from it, and there's a lot of money involved in it. So that's why you see there's a lot of data. Even when your player is good, I give an example, even when you have a very good player, and if you see he's so skillful, dribbles, goal score, whatsoever, do the most unthinkable thing in football, still there's this stats. These stats is not that those people want to always put, say, they don't always ask for it. They don't want to just ask stats for stats sake. The thing they are asking there is because they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to make a mistake because if when you make a mistake, it's like millions you're losing. I remember speaking to one sporting director. I'll give you this. So I went to visit him. So he was telling me we had this meet appointment. So he was telling me, hey, I would like let's work on this plan that you can bring young players from. He said, he was asking me, do you have connections in Africa? I said, yeah, but I'm all around. I'm not just, I know a lot of, I'm trying to do more of the Scandinavian market. He was asking me this kind of question. He said, he's looking for, he wants me to do him this project that I'll look for young players who are like 17, 17, 16 years, so that when they come into the league, they give them their debut, they play 1 or 2 seasons, then he sells them into a club that because the players have more potential. But what they are trying to do, they are more like a team that want to develop players and sell, then they can make their own profit of it. So of course they want to still compete to stay at the highest level. So, but the thing we were now joking and just speaking and talking and laughing. Then he turned and told me, "Don't send me any highlight videos." Just because we had now been used to each other, texting each other, he told me, "Don't ever send me any highlight video." I said, "Really?" I said, "Why?" He said because agents think highlight videos are very important. And he asked me, he said, "Brian, do you think I will remove 2 million from the club's coffers as a sporting director of this club to pay for a player and to just based on highlight videos? Don't you think smartly that things goes into that a lot? Why would I risk my job for that?" That was the question he asked me. But all these kind of things we just spoke this, we were speaking this because we had been used to each other. We were texting. We say, "What? How do you feel like this? How do you feel about this player?" I'll give my opinion. We'll have a conversation because we're more close. That's when he started opening up more because because I had initiated the first contact to travel from where I live to go and see him just to watch training sessions and watch a lot of things about the team, about his team. How so I was learning more. So he saw genuinely that I really have interest in them. That I'm not just there to fill my pockets or just to sell my players to sell any players to them and say, "Oh, take this player, take this player, take this player." I was not there for that. I was more interested in learning what they are trying to do. Then, if I can assist in that way. So this was the thing that he actually opened my eyes with this and said, "So do I really feel?" And that's the thing. So to you people, do you feel a sporting director don't sign players based on highlight videos? No, because they already know that highlight videos, you the agent are just going to ask from highlight video that it's the best moment of the player, him passing, him shooting, him scoring, him running, tackling, or whatever. Those things that there might be 10 games that they are compiling into just few 5 minutes videos. Of course, those things are good, but they don't sign player based on that. So he was telling me that as a sporting director, what I need if I have to ever send a player to him, he's telling me as a friend now that he has trusted me is never a highlight video. The first thing I will move him is stats. I should go and pull up a stats of that player, key passes from a data that as an agent, when you want to start meaning business to succeed in this industry, you should have a software that that analyzes player. Okay, I don't know how much the software might cost in your region, but for example, there are software that are like 24 euros to thousands of euros. But you as a beginner agent, you can get a software for 12 to 24 euros. Okay, let's say 24. That one just tells you key passes of the player, offensive pass, all those metrics, the most basic metrics that a player can have. Those those software are very important because When you're talking to a sporting director, you pull on the stats and say, these are the stats of this player. Before speaking, you also analyze the player they have there. If they have a player, let's take for example, if you're comparing, because when you want to start selling player or offering your player to a club, you make sure the player you're offering is almost, if not better than what they have, has huge potential than what they have. So you have to have two things that you're offering them. You cannot offer someone that you have analyzed their squad and discover that the squad is not. I mean, that your player is lower. They're just going to look at you like some, and they are not going to reply you. That's why most agents don't get reply. But when you start going into business and you want to succeed, well, because someone can say the person wants to succeed, but yet you're doing nothing. But when you want to start succeed, that's the actions you'll be doing. You take the steps like you have a software that when a player says, let's take for example, when a player says, a player says, I want you to manage me as an agent. Okay, then you take the player's name and you put it in your software. You should be able to see everything about him, his minutes he played in that season, game, everything, stats, key passes, everything. Then now you can start asking, talking to him and say, hey, I saw you at this period you haven't played. What happened? Because if you ask that player, he might tell you something different. So you look based on the data and start speaking to him. From there, you could look what you can improve or what you can do. So these are the very important thing you have to do. When you start doing things like this, it's just a matter of time for you to grow because now you are starting to understand the system that what happens behind being a top agent. Because if you do this within the period of 2 3 years, 1 2 3 years, you're going to skip and go right up rather than people who have been in the industry for 10 years just using, because there are people in the industry who have been there for 10 years, but they are just using but spamming sporting directors, because this is a look at in spamming sporting directors with emails till one replies, a desperate sporting director who doesn't need something. I mean, who is not, might need the player based on certain situation. So those are the kind of ways most agents operate. Like, I'm just going to sit in my house, say I have a license, write hundreds emails to sporting directors, non-reply. You write again 100 non-reply. Then maybe at one point in time, these deals that you hear they happen that someone is getting paid 400 euros or 500 euros a month. Those things are never going to help you as an agent because that's no money. So those are the kind of sporting directors who deal with those that can reply to your email. But the sporting directors who are making millions, if you send them those messages, they don't reply because they are working based on stats. And when you want to start dealing with those kind of sporting directors, what you have to do is you have to have your small software on your laptop. When a player talks to you, you go look at all those details. Now, when you want to start working, when you have an idea to say, in 3 months, the transfer window is opening, I'm going to be, I want to sell this player to a club. Now you start analyzing their squads as well. So you start watching their games, analyzing their squads. You can have 3 clubs put in front of you. Just saying that you are doing your homework. This is what I do. You put 3 clubs in front of you, and you say, okay, let's say your player is a central defensive midfielder, and you analyze the central defensive midfielder they have got in those 3 clubs. You look at the one key passes, because normally most clubs have 3 players they are looking. That's how football clubs work. They have the one who plays, the one who is on the bench, and the one who is from academy. They are trying to bring him to the first team. So the one who is plays, maybe he might be 29, and they are thinking that in a few years they'll move him on. If the one who is on the bench is not good enough, they will early move him on to bring someone to replace. Then the one who is from the academy, they're trying to push him to come through so that he can. This is how the chain goes. So you have 3 players. Mostly that's the idea what most club wants. 3 players, the one who plays, the one who is on the bench like the backup, and the one coming up from the academy. So now you will be analyzing these 3. And if your player has a chance to be slightly better than the one who plays, that's first tick. There's no way your player can be in the middle, let me say, competing with the one with a bench option. No, there's no chance. The second best option is if your player is a young player and has a good prospect like the one more than the one coming from an academy. So this is what goes into it. These are the things you're analyzing. So when you see that you analyze all those key stats and your player is dominating in those areas, now you don't contact the sporting director. You start now to build your network, starting to communicate, going to watch those teams. This is basically it. This is how football business happens. The people who know this is what they do behind. But the people now who earn a lot of million, what they do is they start bringing scouts, people bringing players from all over. This is just how the ecosystem works. You analyze, you see, is my player better than that other one? Then now you don't write to the sporting director. Now you try to build a relationship first and start to go more to the club because now you already know that there's something happening behind that you have to bring. So thereby, when you are building this relationship, because transfer happens, it takes time. When your relationship is building with the sporting directors and everything, then now at one point in time, when everything is okay, that you know there might not be rejection, that there's a chance for you to speak about that player, you can bring it now through. But not just waking up that and just looking at emails and say this is the sporting director of this club, and then you send him 100 email. It doesn't really go that way. So this is how this is how the system really works. If you do this is the way I speak. Of course, it's not easy. It's a lot of work put into, which means you need discipline. You need people to so that you can work together with. That's why I said in the beginning when some days that if you're an agent, when you have your license, we all have this dream from our head that we're just going to turn up, we're just going to look at our friends and say, hey, oh, I have a license. Let's go scout some players and sell. No, when you have your license, if you want to do what I'm saying, that you'll be successful, you need people who can operate at this level. Forget about friendship. I have a lot of friends, trust me, who play football, but there's no one I'm working with as a scout. Of course, a lot of them will want to work with me, which is normal because we're friends. But because I entered the system and I started understanding from interviewing people, I knew that I have to be brutal and honest if I want to make it very high at the elite level, which is the level I want to be seen in few years. For me to be seen at that level, the person scouting for me has to have a certain level. He has to know what is data. He has to be very focused and strict. The person analyzing and doing everything, so the people I'm working in have to be into this business real. If not, I'm not going to make it. That's how demanding is. So just from the basis of things that I'm speaking here, you see that, for example, having having a software to analyze those things, you must also know how to analyze those things. If not, you're not going to operate at that level. You have to learn how to operate to compare players, compare your player with another player. So and also as an agent, if I'm moving and interviewing people, it's not every time that I'm going to go and watch team strength. So I will need someone to do certain things for me. So thereby, the circle of an agent, if you want to be successful, you need key people around you who are also driven to be successful. You don't need a couple of friends who are, hey guys, saying that yes, I can scout these players. No, they don't know anything. We have all been into that place that before you have your license, a lot of people say, I know this, I know this. No, till you are into the business, then you know what you're up against. Then you start looking at it serious and saying that okay, there's no point to bring friendship here. I need people who can deliver because only those people who are going to take you to the top. Okay, let's look at some of your things. Some of the things I can be African network if you need one. Mm, please can I intern with you at pass the FIFA exam? How do you get data for grassroots players? No, as I said already, to be I want to answer your question. The first one was, what is your projection of the industry? I can be African network if you need one. Not looking for an African network now, sorry, but let's go. I want to go gradually. And he said, please, I can intern with you if I pass the exam. For internship, well, yeah, that's more of a teaching thing. Yes, well, when you pass the exam, we can look into that. How do you get data for grassroots players? That's a good question. Do you know the name of the software to analyze players? Yes, there are a lot of software. There's iScout. I don't know if well, what I'll do is, let me just a moment. Um, I'll pin a link. A link. I want to show you guys maybe a cheaper one, because normally the one I might be using might be quite expensive for this. There are a lot. There's comparison. There's iScout and all those things. But let's look for. Let me just try to look for a cheaper software. Let's see. Just one moment. Just a moment. Let's see what it gives me. I'm trying to find. One moment again. Just a moment. Let's see what I can get from that. Okay. Okay. There are a couple of here. Let's see. I'm going to pin this in. Just copy and let me give you this name. This is one name. Yes, this one. That's one name of a software. But as I said, there are many software, because these days there are many software. Actually, I've been called by a lot of by these people who build software for partnership deals, all those things. But you don't need also those kind of. You just need a cheaper software. So what you can do is just find a cheaper one, because you might not that one might be expensive for you, but you need a cheaper software that will just that each time you have someone, because a lot of time you see players just saying, I'm looking for an agent, can you be my agent? But their stats are not good. And it's not that their stats are I don't want to really be harsh, but it's almost like you need to find a way to be able to get the best out of yourself as an agent. And to find a way to get the best out of yourself, you just need that small software that when you speak to a player, you also stay in your room and analyze that player. What are his stats and what is his true value? And this also, let's say I'll just give people this story. I was in Denmark, and there was a club there that I was interviewing the CEO of a club in Denmark. So there was this young player that was saying that let me look for him a team. That was last year. Let me look for him a team. So I sent that player to the club, I mean, I sent the player because not I was speaking to the sporting CEO. Then the CEO, after that, I was speaking to the sporting director. Then the sporting director asked me to send him a midfielder. Now I send this player to without analyzing. That was one difficult mistake. I said I'm not going to do it again. But luckily, the midfielder was a good player. But still, at that, I didn't analyze the squad because the main thing what I always do is I try to go analyze the squad. But because when I was on phone and the sporting director told me send me this player, when I send the player, what I usually do is that I'll tell the sporting director, okay, I will send the player, but after the call, I'll be analyzing their squad, how this player fits in, so that it helps. But in that moment, when I send the player actually he went there for trials, and it was okay. But I wasn't. Of course, everything went well, but I wasn't still happy because normally I try to want to I want to always know how the squad is, because if you send a player to a squad who is probably, let's say, too good, the player might end up not playing, and then maybe the market value start to drop. There's a lot of things going into it. The player might start to say, "Oh, I'm not getting playing time here. Remove me out of here." And players are a little bit emotional in this way that when they are not playing, the first people they ring is their agent. And if the agent doesn't provide solution, it's almost like this agent is not working. So you need to always put into perspective what is happening or where are you sending your player. For example, there's a player now that I'm also like trying to work for him. He played in the conference league. He played in the conference league with Coops. That's European Conference League. So the thing is, I'm trying to look for him. He's playing actually now, but we want a different situation with him. I'm trying to look for a good situation with him that he can be able to be a main player, because now we want him to be a main player for a club. When I mean main player, is like one of the best players in the club. So we're looking for that. So now, when you're looking for that, you start to go now into details, like which squad does the player can the player fit into, which coach buys into doing that. Of course, he still need to perform, because you only perform, then you earn the right to play. That's normal in football. But you want to look for a club that fits him. You want to look for a club that can give him that platform that is his playing style. You don't want to let me say you don't want to carry a player who plays short passes and break and carry him and take him to a team that plays just long balls because the finance is good. Because that player is going to arrive there, and in few weeks, when he doesn't play, of course his pocket is going to be heavy because he's going to get a lot of money. But after some time, he's going to be ringing you and saying that, hey, you have to get me out of here because I'm not playing football. And if you don't get him out of there, at one point in time, you stop the family will stop communicating with you that much because the player is not happy. Then at one point in time, you see because you have a representation agreement with him as a player, people are not going to renew. So you see, there's a lot happening into that you people need to sit and say, the player can tell you that I want to move here. You say this is what is good for your career. But if you want to move here, no problem. But my advice would be that do this move because your playing style fits this club. So we start from here. So this is one of the most also challenging things when you speak to parents, because normally uh, the parents, the players, they want the quick fix. But you, the agent who understand the industry, you have to always calm them down, put them into a situation that they understand that this is a process. And if you take a kind of move, it might kill your career. I have this player, for example, I think I mentioned you people also about this player that I have in who plays a young academy player who's so talented, 14 years. I took him to a team called Coops of Kuopio in Finland here. As I said, Coops have been playing the league. They have been winning the championship twice in Finland. So like they are like the best team, the benchmark now for Finnish football. So they are representing the they went to the European Conference League. So with him, we had to have you have to always have a conversation with the parents to put a path. But also, you as an agent, you have to also be smart to know that not everything the parents might know, because the child is their son, there's a lot of emotion that's going to be attached to it. They will want something quick fix that we just want this player to play at this level. You have to be able to suck in that how do they call it, that frustration of the parent and tell them something realistic. You have to be able to calm people down and tell them that, okay, I understand you want your son to play at this level, but now we have to go through a process. The first process was to take him out from this team that is not a professional environment. Because when I saw the son, actually, I analyzed him with a lot of people. I said, okay, the level of this child can be a level of a player of an Arsenal, Barcelona, Real Madrid. He's that talent, he's that good, technically gifted. But also, I had to tell the parents that if he is not training in a professional environment, that talent goes nowhere. There are thousands of people who have played football and they haven't made it because talent takes you to nowhere if there's no structure and if there's no programming structure, training, discipline around you. So those were the first things conversation we had. So as an agent, these are the things you'll be having conversation for of. So we had this, and then the next thing was, what is the path to go there? Okay, now you know that this kid is talented, but the kid is playing in a team that he was playing for an amateur club that in a game he could score 7 goals. So it was too easy for him, faster than everyone, stronger than everyone, could dribble more than everyone. So the tactics of the coach was just defend and give the ball to the young kid, and he dribbles everyone and go and score. But of course, he was putting on the up the numbers, but that was not his level. So his first year in training into professional academy, he is actually not doing well. But now the challenge also will be he should stay grounded, training there because he's 14. Next will be like to take him to one of the best, if not the best academies in Scandinavia. So all these things are processed. Or let's take for example, if he is 16, he's playing there, then or he's 14 now. So before he turns 16, I as an agent should already have a team that is taking him for trials, or he's going there at the age of 16. So now that he has 14, I as the agent I have to be planning. I have this 2 years gap that I should come up with multiple choices that he can go for trials to sign his first professional contract when he turns 16 years. That's your job as an agent to do that. When you put someone at a club, you have to already, there's still work you're doing behind. So if you don't do this, then at one point in time, you're not going to be there, or your players are going to leave you. So as an agent, you have a task you always do. Let's say when you position a player at a club, let's say the player is having a 3 years contract with a club. Why that player is playing, it's not done with you. You have to anticipate what is his next move. What are the things happening around that? You always have to find the information on knowing what is happening. So those are the most important things that you have to have an idea about the player. So let's take, for example, talking just based on this young player because I'm using an example. If he is playing now 14, very talented. So if he's 16, what would be the natural progression for him? So what I'll be looking at if he's 16, it will be a club in Belgium like Club Brugge, because I'll be analyzing them. I'll be looking at a club like Anderlecht. I'll be looking like a club like a club that I see that if he plays there, he's going to get game time. The next stage of his career will be to move to England, to move to a Spanish team, because Club Brugge or those clubs in Belgium, they have a good training path for transition to uh, the main leagues. So now my job as an agent is I start to build that connection gradually with the sporting director of these clubs I have put together. So when you position a player, you analyze and say, okay, where can they go? So how do I start to build that let's say if I have zero connection with those clubs, now I'll have to start to find a way to contact them. Can I travel to go and watch their training session? So these are the things, the job you put in behind now as an agent. So before he turns 16, I should be, if I'm targeting Belgium, I should must pay a flight to Brussels, watch how they train, watch how the first team train, be there in a couple of, let me say, a week, trying to know how the thing is happening there. Know few people, not proposing any player to them. I don't need to propose any player to them, but what I'm just going to see, they observe and build relationship. So when you build your relationship there, maybe you can come back another time. The last time when you are seeing the team, you communicate again. If you have not the contact of the sports director or the academic sporting director or a coach of the under 19, those kind of three people, or under 19, 16, 17, those are the people now that you come back and you keep connection, start talking to them, how you enjoy their training session, you start to build. You don't need to sell them anything. So that when your player turns 16, you're already having a good communication with these people. So you see how it goes. So when your player turns 16 now, where he's playing, you need to move him on. And when you're moving him on, now you start analyzing. Now you have your first data you've made, you've built your communication with those people. The next stage now you start analyzing the people who are in that squad as compared to your player. So when you analyze that and you discover that if there's a gap, you can propose. If not, the process you have been doing, you cannot do it just with one club. You have to do it with two, three clubs so that you have options. The way he fits in that you know he's going to play, now you offer him where he's going to play because development at certain age is the most important thing. So this is just the logic happening behind the scene. But with this logic, you need to be aware of you need to travel, and to be able to travel as an agent, you have to pay flight, you have to pay your hotels and all those things. So you need to be a top agent. Let's say to make it with the strategy, what I'm telling you, you need also some finances. So those are the things that are very important. Great strategy or creating network. Yeah, it is. It's something that if you do it practically, it's going to work naturally, because to be an agent is more of a relationship business. It's not even. It's more of you building relationship. The moment you build relationship, the people start trusting you. Yeah, the people they rely more on you. Like it's the same thing I said. Like when I took a player to the team I said in Finland, yeah, or Coops, um, because I had built a relationship with them, they were now asking me that I could bring players to them. But that relationship doesn't happen if I don't go there to build a relationship. So those were the things. And to build a relationship, of course, you have to learn how to speak to people, communicate, because communication is a big thing. So as an agent, one advice I can give you is that learn to have time for yourself to read book and focus on yourself. So it comes back to when I say when I have my free time, I always read things like this book. As I said, I show people all the time how to win friends and influence people. Because with this kind of books, you learn something like how human being thinks, how people think. You learn that okay, your first point of contact cannot be selling things to people. People will see you like you're too desperate. Your first point of contact can never just be. Think of it just naturally. If you approach anybody and you just try to sell things, people are not walking on the road looking for things to buy. That's the reality. And that's what this kind of books teach you. No one walks on the street and just like, I'm looking for something to buy, I'm looking for this to buy. No, everybody wants to save money in life. That's the reality. But we only spend money generally as a human being as human beings only when we have need to spend that money. And for us to have that need, for us to buy something from you, we need to trust you that this thing is you're offering us a good product. So this is where that relationship comes in. That for you to sell your player to a sporting director, that sporting director needs to trust you. Yeah. So let's take this. Let me give you this example. So I sat. There's this guy from that contacts me a lot from is it East Africa. So player who not an I think it's a scout, and he always spams me with a lot of players and all these things. Yeah, but the thing here is, I could be like saying, okay, I'm just going to take all those players and offer them to different clubs. It doesn't work like that. So here's the thing: if you if you're an agent and you want to grow, let's say gradually, the people you're working with them, you have to the trust is the main thing in the middle. If you don't trust someone, then each time he sends a player, you will have to go through another process like scouting and doing everything again. Okay, so what I'm just trying to say here is, if you're an agent, anything you want to do, you have to invest time in relationship, because that's what is going to bring you this thing. That's what's going to bring you result. Forget sometimes when you can see someone. There's a lot of this thing happening online when you see just pops or someone say deal done, shows a shirt. Those things, if you're a beginner agent, I'm just going to tell you, those things should never move you on. A lot of all those things that people are advertising and saying deals done, they are, the deal might be done and the person is playing maybe an academic or playing amateur football. Of course, it's deal done, but there's nothing happening there. For me, it was always, if I want to be an agent, if it's for me to invest my time to become a top agent, an agent that I need to travel, because what I look about agencies, I want to travel to be able to feel like, oh my God, this is a very good job. I need to enjoy myself as an agent while doing the job. So as I said, I think I've told this story to people that when I traveled to Norway, the hospitality and everything, just to this, and the way the people received me, and when I was going back, I entered the taxi behind, and I was to drop back at the hotel where I was staying, and I started feeling, oh my God, this job, if you get it right, if you do everything right, this is one of the most amazing job for you to just travel, scout people, communicate with people, enter football clubs, sit at luxury hotels, people pay you, and then someone is playing football, then the commissions get into your bank account. But that is the pinnacle, that's the best part of it. But of course, you have to do your job. These things I'm explaining here, you have to still do it behind the scene. So when I went to Norway, that I started feeling a little bit of that. I said, this is actually what I wanted to be. Yeah, this is what I wanted. And because I had the option of being like a coach, a lot of offers, like you train people, come give us some ball training stuffs and physical preparation for the players. But I generally feel that I wanted to do that, to be locked in one place, training people, going home, coming back, training people the same day. I don't actually get joy from that, because probably because I used to play. I didn't actually get joy from that anymore. So the thing that really brings me joy is like if I have to travel just to sit on the stadium, watch a player, and then the player performs, I try to make a move with my networking strategy to see that the player goes to another club. When he's doing his own part, I'm doing my own part. But I get to travel the world just to see things around. That's the best thing. I started getting that feeling when I traveled to Norway. Then when I did Denmark, the move to Denmark to also go and interview people, I felt the same, because this is how the move go. You have to interview. Let's say you might be trying to interview 4 CEOs, 3 sporting directors, something like that. So you wake up. Let's say you have 5 days a week to be there, because you don't count the weekends. No one works on weekend, but you have to arrive on weekend to set your rooms, everything. So you arrive on a Saturday, Sunday. Then you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for the interviews, everything to happen. Then on the next Saturday, you're leaving. So this is how the setup is always. So the first on that weekend, you'll be planning how you will speak to, let's say, the CEO of a club at maybe 9:30, then around 2 p.m., 9:30 in the morning, then around 2 p.m., you go to speak to the sporting director of another club. So within all this, you already have a taxi that carries you around the city of that, the city that you have to go in whatever country you are. So this is almost like the plan. Yeah. So when you are preparing your note, you're doing everything that you ask your question. When he responds, this is how you answer, so that you don't feel awkward. Because when speaking to people, you also have to show that communication skills in a way that you must know what you're doing, so that at least the CEO doesn't say that what is this, that not this is not a good speaker or whatsoever. So you have to find a way to be able to communicate and keep things nice, but also moving so that the CEO can invite you in future to come and come to for another interview. So this was just the basic. But what I felt there, just to tell you, bro, what I felt there was in this industry, if you're an agent, and you get things right, you will live one of the best lives in the world, because it's that kind of business that you tend to travel around a lot. You travel around uh, different countries just watching and scouting players. But behind it, you have to do a lot of this work I'm doing. But what you're not going to get is if you are just an agent who sits and spam a lot of sporting directors by email, you're not going to get money out of this industry. You're just going to get few transfer here and there, and you're not going to live on that basis as an agent. So my advice here is that when you get your license, what you do is you try to go deeper. As I'm telling you, go deeper and do this. It will take 1 to 2, 3 years, but you turn up with players because you know what they're doing. You will turn up with players that will go like for millions of euro. And when you sign one player that you have worked on sign for 1 million, let's take for example, your commission as an agent is quite high because you can have the agent fee or whatsoever. Let's take for example, if a transfer is 20 million, I'm just giving an example, and 1 million comes into your pocket. Within that 1 million euro, I'm talking in euros, within that 1 million euro, you can use to travel a lot and do a lot of things that you can start building your agency. You can bring an extra scout, you can do whatever you want to do, but you're going to build your agency in a way that people will actually look at you like, oh, this person, people want to work for you. But all this comes because you're doing the strategies that I'm talking about. That first, you don't just, when you get your license, you don't just hurry to go and sign the players. You try to network to get sporting directors on your side, build trust. Just using the process as I told you people, like what I'm trying to talk about when I talk of Club Brugge, the team in Belgium. So these are just a process you can go through, and this is going to help you a lot. Okay. Let's see. Will supply not surpass demand in this industry? Train players privately that you represent. Can you train? Yes, yes, you can train players privately that you represent. Actually, like what I do is, because I have an Instagram follower that I have 150, 32K followers. If I'm not mistaken, let's see. Yes, 132K followers. If anyone wants to know the name, yes, the name is Pro.Football Training. I train 130. So I have a huge audience there, and most of those audience are like players from under 16, 16, 17 years, 18 years players who are willing to play pro from all parts of the world. So most of the time, what I do is, I try to also offer them advice based on when I go to interview a CEO, whatsoever. So from there, those players also ask for personal trainings that I try to give them. But I'm sure what I'm doing is I'm also looking for someone that will take over the charge of training people, because I cannot do that at one point in time. Like, this should be my last year of doing that, but I have to find someone who's very competent and who is good at training players. But yes, to answer your question, yes, you can train players who are your players. That is accepted by the rules. What you cannot do as an agent is going to train players for a football club, because as an agent, the rules of regulation of FIFA state that you cannot work with a football club. You cannot work with a football club, or you cannot sign a contract with a football club. Yeah. For example, this year I was proposed. There's a football club who proposed me, asked me if I could come and be a coach for them, a fitness trainer, or they are going to pay me certain salaries. But away from me not liking, because I turned that offer down. But still, you cannot do that because it's against FIFA rules and regulation. And those are part of the things that you read if you're reading the study materials, because it shows that, because it says that you cannot do that, because then you have personal interest. You have interest. That's interest. He who is an agent is what. Oh, my lights are turning off. He who is an agent cannot work as a cannot work as with a football club. Mm, just a moment, guys. Let's see. 1 second. Give me one. Yeah, I want to adjust the light just a moment. Let's see. Let's go. And what? When is the next this one? Let's. I hope it goes now. Yes. Yes, I'm back, and I think I've spoken too much. So 1 hour 30 minutes. Yeah, I've spoken too much, and my lights are telling me I have to go soon. But anyways, just to answer your question, can you train players and privately yes, you can do that. So that was the question I was answering. You can train players privately to represent them, but what you cannot do is you cannot train players for a football club. It doesn't work like that. Let's see. Yes. So that's part of the rules and regulation as an agent. I think you push already know that as an agent you don't work with a football club generally. The moment you said the moment you are an agent, you have to, if you want to work with a football club, the thing you can only do is you have to suspend your license. You can do that on the platform, but I don't know, maybe you people are different. I don't know many people who are agents who want to work with football clubs. People do that, but for me, because except the ones maybe if you're an agent and you're not making money out of it, but for me it's almost like, if I'm an agent, I don't want to work with a football club because a football club ties me down to one place, except it becomes a situation where that, okay, as an agent, you're not making a living out of it. But if you're making a living as an agent, there's no way you want to work with a football club, because a football club, you have to go to the same location every day. Of course, you travel with the team, everything. People are different, but for me, I can only speak for myself. But for me, it's always like I wanted to have this freedom of traveling around. Let's take, for example, going to, if my player is playing for a team in Belgium, I want to go and sit in the stand and watch him, sit at a comfortable VIP place, watch him. When he's done, I go back. Then, if I have another player playing for a team in Czech Republic, I should be able to leave there, travel straight to Czech Republic to watch him. If I have another one playing in England, I should be able to take a flight and say, okay, I'll go watch that one next week. So this is then I come back now and continue the process of working. But anyway, so this is how it happens. That's what I feel I should be doing. I don't want to walk into training sessions trying to coach people regularly. And that's one thing. I don't know, because maybe have I lose the spark there? Because even when I train players now and then, it's hard to sometimes to get motivated because I see myself in this side. So I still go to train the players because I need to do that job. For example, we can in the morning week I train those players. I train them twice a week. We have a session. I'm trying to improve their ball control. We have a sessions on Wednesdays and Saturday. But of course, they train with their team 5 times a week, and then they play games on the weekend. So I train them on Wednesdays and then on Saturdays or Sundays when they don't have games, like a recovery session. But even those 2 days, they are still challenging for me because my brain is really focused on this department. My son will be under 12 in the fall. I want to represent him when he is 16. Is that allowed? If your son is this 12, and then when he's 16 you want to represent him, no, but you have, the law has changed. You have to be an agent to be able to represent him. If you're an agent, yes, good, you can represent him, but you must have a license to represent anyone now. And this law actually changed long ago. As you know, that now you don't represent when they, because the agency, they regulated the agency in 2023. Now it's always like, no matter whether it's your son or what whatsoever, you must have someone representing him as an official agent. So yes, you can represent him if you have the license, but just to answer your question, but if you don't have the license, you can't represent him. That's just the main thing. I see him playing in Belgium at game. Well, but as I said, okay, good. But I said if you have to try to represent, write the license. I mean, get your license, and then you can represent whoever you want, even your son. That's the thing, because FIFA doesn't accept people representing representing clients, because of course it's your son representing them without having licenses, because this actually made the agency look more of like not professional. So they actually regulated, because before in the agency you have parents representing their sons. So when you went into when you went into negotiation, you discover that there's the parents and negotiation, the professionalism of the club, and probably a parent who doesn't have too much knowledge on the football, for example, it was quite different. So now the license exam is putting you, because when you read through the license and pass, what is going to give you a lot of knowledge how the industry is run. So you're going to have some professionalism there that you can be able to negotiate with clubs. Imagine before, a parent could negotiate. Of course, he was working, but a parent could negotiate for the son. But you couldn't negotiate a lot of, let me say, the real value of your son's transfer, of the wage packet of your son. That's why people always say people needed agents. So because the clubs will be trying to say, okay, since he's a parent, we might get the best out of this deal, because he's not going to really know how negotiation happens. But apart from that, there were a lot of things also attached to it that the agency wasn't really moving. So FIFA decided to step in and regulate the agency. So now, if you want to represent anybody, if you think if of all the players who, like Neymar, I think people know Neymar is a professional, famous player. When he plays, his father, his agent was his father. But when the rule changed, his agent became Ezepi Zavi. His agent became, yeah, the guy who made the move from Neymar from Barcelona to Paris Saint Germain. So everything changes automatic. Everything now has changed. What is your IG handle? My IG handle is pro.football trainings. Pro.football training. Yeah, that's my IG handle. Yeah. So I guess that was it for today. Let's say I think I answered most of your questions. If anyone has a question, then I can try to help. If not, then it's time for tomorrow. Tomorrow can be another day. Yes, we can continue also the past. We can continue also the past questions. The past questions we did for the FIFA agent exam. And then there's before I go, also there's this one thing, and there's this thing I have to say. Okay, when I went to there's one thing I learned when I went to Norway. I was going to interview CEO of a football club. Okay, and what I discovered is that, sometimes from the outside, what always happens is, we always feel, oh my God, these people are special. Of course, they are working at a good job, special people. But when you start to interview people and talk to people, you are going to realize that most of the time, those people are normal people like we are. But it's just that they are doing certain routine regularly. What I mean by that is, before I was going to traveling to Norway to interview CEOs, I was thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to interview this person who is just like one hell of human being. I'm not going, I hope I don't mess up there. For example, let's give an example like that. But during our interview, of course, you prepare yourself and everything. During the interview process, you start to discover that, okay, actually, he's the CEO of this club. It doesn't mean that he knows everything in this world. There's something I can actually offer him. because the questions he was asking, I was answering them, and he was relying on me to give him some feedback or some knowledge on things. Then you start to realize that, oh, okay, this is actually how it works. But from afar, you always feel, you look at from afar, you look at the sporting director or the CEO of some, and then you feel like, oh my God, these people are people who are superior to me. I cannot do anything, or I just need to try a way to just be. I need to find a way just to be, not to mess up. But when you start entering those kind of, let's say, that kind of environment and start doing things, you after out of a sudden you start to feel like, no, you belong into that environment. These people are not special. It's just that they have been put into that place, and they follow a certain routine that makes them be there. So that's what I found out when I went to interview the CEO, that the people working there are not special. Of course, they have gotten there. And for you to get there, you just need to also have your own routine that you can follow and maintain your own lane. Same like if you're an agent, as I said today, if you wake up and you keep track that, oh, this is what I want to do, this is my plan on my head, I want to do this, do this, do this. Within a year or two, you're going to move quicker than someone who has been in the industry for 5 years. There's no coincidence in that. You're going to move because you have a plan. But someone who doesn't have a plan is just going to chop here and there, jump here and there, here and there. So what I mean a plan is, you target the clubs you want to do work with and apply the same strategy I told you. It's just a matter of time before you're going to break through the agency and be successful. But if you come and then instead of focusing on building your network, you're bringing a lot of players into your agency, then spamming sporting directors, writing hundreds of emails, waiting for them to reply, you're not going to get any reply from. You're just going to keep staying stuck at the same place. So that's just the idea. Okay, but tomorrow we let's leave it today. Yeah, tomorrow we can continue. Same time, 9:30 Eastern European time. Thanks for everyone for watching. Tomorrow we can, if you have, I always say, if you have questions, you can bring the questions and we can try to figure it out and work on things. Okay. But anyways, let me let you people. Tomorrow is another day. We do that. Okay. Take care. And it was nice staying long. I stayed long also because I enjoy just talking to you people. Okay. Take care and have a nice day or night, because it's night here, from any part of the world where you live. I live in Europe, Finland, so probably you might be watching from different parts of the world. So we keep in touch. Tomorrow is another day. Take care. Cheers. Bye.